He says, my channel is amazing for someone like himself who has started seriously getting into literature. That's awesome, man. Sincerity with a hint of flattery will get you further. He was curious if I was going to review any Joyce, which is actually not a question posed at me nearly as often as I thought it would be. The answer to that is maybe. We'll see. I haven't read any Joyce that transformed me or changed my life yet. Working on it. I haven't even read any Joyce that I really enjoyed yet. In the middle of Ulysses, I stopped because I realized that there were so many references that were completely over my head that I had other things to read at that moment that were far more important to me than just listlessly glossing over reference after reference of stuff that I would never understand. Furthermore, concerning trying to tackle some intimidating titles, writes Justin, such as the Divine Comedy, Ulysses, and various philosophical works, should he just not give a and go at it, or wait until he's better read? Well, great question. Now, this is my humble opinion. This is what worked for me, if anything worked. I'm certainly no expert. I've definitely not mastered the philosophical canon of any century ever. I've read just a little bit, but it's still, it's gargantuan and unfathomable how much I don't understand, and how little I understood when I was reading these pieces. But here's the thing, this is how it's going to be. This is how it's going to apply to me. It's going to be how it applies to you and everybody, essentially. A college instructor once shared a piece of wisdom with me that I'll never forget for the rest of my life, and I don't actually remember anything else from college except this. He said, "It is impossible to get better at anything and to look cool at the same time. But you can do it on your own terms. I would suggest that if you have the courage, get right the but simultaneously go out and pick up supplementary material. Don't be afraid of that. Introductions, analyses, books by other authors about this book. Whatever you can find and use to get everything possible out of those sentences. Don't write anything off. Any sort of tool that helps, use it." The first time Jean Genet read Being in Nothingness by Sartre, a friend of his, Genet didn't get it. Because Sartre was a friend, he went over to Sartre and he's like, "Hey, I don't get this." And Sartre was like, "Here, give it to me." And he literally patterned this alternate way of reading it, made these notes in these pages. He's like, "Okay, read it in this order." And then Genet reads it and he's like, "Now I get it." So, look, it's not just, I think we have this tendency to believe that when we read something, it's simply us because we're too stupid to get it. At least in my case, I've definitely felt like that many, many, many times. Just read Being in Time to make it. If you think you're smart, just go and read 5 pages out of Being in Time by Martin Heidegger. I think you'll be fairly surprised. Otherwise, it's a fucking headache just glossing over page after page with none of this sinking in whatsoever. Of course, that's frustrating. And of course, with Ulysses, what I should have done is gone back and pick up some supplementary material. Which I eventually did, and I actually learned quite a bit and got a lot of the references. I still haven't finished it, but there you have it. On the other hand, it's impossible for you to go through these texts cold turkey, so to speak, and not have at least one crucial aha moment. And even if it's like 1 out of every 100 pages, it doesn't matter. It means that you're learning, right? You're recognizing pieces, slowly but surely. You're forcing your brain to think differently, to interpret an author's use of language. For some of these guys, as you know, it takes an astounding amount of energy and focus. This is not leisurely reading, but it is far more rewarding emotionally and intellectually than most things in life. Learning is, as you are probably already well aware of, 2 things. 1, difficult. 2, unpopular. Difficult things make you take responsibility for yourself and your own actions. And that's very unpopular in our culture. The actual time and energy it takes to appreciate a difficult text is not exactly advocated socially or appreciated. Rather, it's the end result which is vaguely admired. The I read Infinite Jest in 6 hours is what seems to be more appreciated. Speed and size as opposed to comprehension and retention. Is Ulysses the greatest book ever written? Well, if it made you laugh, cry, and at the same time, maybe. And if not, I mean, is it the greatest book now? Well, it's not for me to decide, but I can guarantee you that 99% of the references in that text are going to be lost on 99% of the people who are reading it. That is, unless we had some supplementary material to help us get it, so to speak. Simply because of the dated nature of all these references, it's going to be difficult, coming from here and now to understand, a quarter of what they're talking about. But that's why you have things like Rejoice, a podcast about Ulysses, going line by line, giving you every single reference, all of them, ever. Perfect. For all of us poor, pitiful peasants wandering the dusty pages of texts gone by, while the elite sit on their thrones, smoking Cubans and rubbing their nipples with beluga caviar. My leg's asleep. Oh, that's a weird feeling. So if you decide to jump into this book feeling a little bit insecure and perhaps not up to snuff, will you know more than the person who decided he or she wasn't ready to read this book? Yeah, you will. And you'll begin to realize how much you have no clue about so much, which will keep you humble and wise as you grow older. That is very important to me, at least. So like I said, even if you only get 2 thoughts out of Phenomenology of the Spirit, they might be worth it. Those might be really, 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 really good thoughts. Sure, have courage. Have courage. Sure, have courage. Have courage to face your own stupidity. To look it head on in the face, to get to know it, to shake hands with it. Because if you do, it will not be here for long. And the more you take responsibility for your intellectual shortcomings, the more they will cease to be. This is the hard truth. But it comes with a price. You have to have the courage to